It's not that early.
Yeah, I don't know about that one.
Whenever you're ready.
Okay, so our presentation today is Tucson Village Farm, and what we're looking at is kind of an idea of what we're going to be doing is a feasibility study to outline costs and the time needed so that they have an idea of the implications of taking the project and moving forward with it, product pricing and distribution, knowing the target markets, an effective pricing and how to label the product, and then the target markets of what demographics they should be aiming that product at. And this is my team here. We're actually going to be working for Tucson Village Farms in conducting this analysis. And as far as introduction goes, my name is Topher Hatton.
My name is Robert Chang.
I'm Kevin Chai.
I'm Tim Brousse.
And I'm Austin Paper.
You can scoot that thing down.
Oh, will that move?
Yeah. No.
Oh, there, that was,
Thank you.
sorry, Kevin.
We're going to begin with talking about the project scope, which is kind of what you guys want to see from us, and then ultimately what we will be delivering to you. And then we'll kind of go into some issues that we see with this project as far as our markets and then the cost recovery with the popcorn seasoning development. And then also along with that, we're going to be discussing the timeline and what and when will be delivered to you. And then lastly, we're going to discuss the stakeholders, which is everyone who's going to be impacted by bringing this popcorn seasoning and wine into the farm.
Along with what Topher said, ultimately our project scope is to provide you with a feasibility study. And in this feasibility study, we will provide you with a target market and a target venue for which our popcorn seasoning can be most effective being sold. We will also provide you with a cost analysis of our final product, in which description would be glass jars, the seasonings themselves, the ingredients, the gas and mileage that's needed to wash the ingredients and whatnot. And also, our product will be an outreach program also to also inform other people of Tucson Village Farm as well. Ultimately, our final product will be sustainable, cost-effective, and very impactful.
So there are four major problems with regards to the feasibility study that we're attempting to address and identify. So the first problem is basically cost recovery. Will this be something that TVF can use in order to recoup some of their expenditures for outreach programs? The second is an untested product line, which is their popcorn seasoning. There hasn't been extensive research into whether or not consumers will identify or like this new product. So we have to do some background research on that. The third problem is an unknown viability, which deals just basically with competition and basically competitor popcorn seasonings and whether the TVF popcorn seasoning line can get enough of a market share to be viable. And last but not least is logistics, which basically deals with supply logistics and also distribution. So getting distributors and stores to pick up this popcorn seasoning line or just selling it from their own farm. So we need to address that as well.
All right, as far as the timeline, we initially had a meeting with you guys and it went well. We got an overview of the farm and what you guys wanted to see from us. We will be developing the seasonings for you guys. You are going to send us your current recipes by the 15th, and then we're going to expand and test with those and see what kind of appeals to our target markets, which also goes along with our third deliverable, which is our target market development study. And this is going to go after the target market, see what kind of pricing and packaging appeals to them, and what price they're willing to pay for that. And then as far as the packaging and pricing goes, we're going to have to develop a sustainable packaging along with an affordable price that does aid in the cost recovery that you guys are looking for. Lastly, we're going to present you with the feasibility study, which really incorporates all the following above tasks and just gives you if you should actually incorporate the seasoning into the farm or not.
So the budget we've basically allocated is $120, broken down into three different sections. The first being packing materials, which this counts as basically the glass jar, and basically any sort of decorations or fluff that we may add to make it more appealing to the consumer. The second is print cost, which basically
How many jars or how many final products are we talking
this
in that
basically
$50?
the $50 is basically going to be a prototype to determine how much it would
Just one?
just one. Well, we don't.
So several in the line of the seasonings.
Okay.
What we're projected is four to five of the seasonings that test the best with the market.
Okay.
And then print cost will be $10, which basically covers all the deliverable costs and printing costs, possibly also the labeling for the jar itself. And then finally, the seasoning ingredients, $60 for basically all the different popcorn seasoning lines, so we can test them out and see how market would react to them.
Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the stakeholders that will be affected by this project. And there's three major stakeholders. It's the children that visit your farm, the volunteers and employees, and then finally the University of Arizona. And so the children will be affected because they do visit, there's about 300 that come a week, as you know. And we're planning on seeing if it's a cost recovery program. So the more money that the farm has, the better the experience will be for the children theoretically. So that's how the children will be affected. Secondly is the volunteers and the employees, and they will be affected once again by the money. If it can be a cost recovery, to have more money to pay for a full-time employee or maybe a part-time employee, that'll also be beneficial to the farm. And then finally, the University of Arizona, they've put in a lot of money into this farm, so if they're able to put their brand on something and incorporate it into the farm a little bit more, then that's another benefit for them. I'm also going to talk about some of the situational variables that we've thought of as far as the problems with the feasibility or some problems we may run into. One of the biggest things is the health codes and the kitchen and how we're going to produce the popcorn seasoning. We want to make sure that it is viable and probable that we're able to get through all the health codes, or you would be able to get through all the health codes in a timely manner. Secondly, the kitchen we talked about in our previous meeting is somewhere across town, far away. So is that possible to drive all the way across town to go to a kitchen to make popcorn seasoning and then have it come back? Is that a valid use of time? Finally, staffing, we talked about how you guys don't have any full-time employees right now. It's all partial or part-time employees. So is it possible to have the manpower and labor to employ and produce popcorn seasoning?
And so the summary of what we've gone over today is really three major points that we wanted to deliver with this feasibility study. The marketing analysis, which is going to really focus on the target market, as well as the packaging, so that it comes as a complete solution from that regard. And then the resource analysis, as far as time and ingredients and the various things that will go into the production and the sale of the product. And then last, but almost as important, if not most important, is going to be the cost recovery analysis. What kind of margins will be coming back? What kind of investment will be taken into account for this project?
Do you have any questions?
I do. So you've done a nice job, it looks like. What do you think is going to be the hardest part of this project, the information that's going to be hardest for you to obtain?
I think the hardest part would basically be gauging market response to different product lines. Basically, our idea at this point is to wait for busy periods in TFB's community outreach and then try and gauge the market like through surveys and see what kind of product lines they would be willing to like try out and basically spend the money on. So and from that we can make a recommendation based on which lines are most popular. From there we can test the viability of each of those individual lines.
Okay, so you're planning to do surveys for that primary research aspect. Okay, great. Do you think that you will be able to provide the client with everything that they're looking for in their feasibility study? Those three components right there, it looks like a good grasp of information. Do you think that you're going to come up short in any of those areas, or should you be able to do that?
I believe we will be able to deliver on all three areas. My concern is whether it's positive or negative in those various areas is going to change. There are some restrictions that you've given us, like reusable packaging, stuff that is environmentally friendly, as well as the amount of events and time that you have to put into it. But we will definitely complete all of these and give you a good overview from the information that we're able to obtain so that you have something to work with, and even if this project isn't specifically what you go with, that you have information usable for other projects.
That's all the questions that I have.
Thank you.
All right. So do you want to record the feedback, or do you want to just?
I think you can stop it so that
Okay.
way it's just done.
Then
If
it's
you
not a
wanna
huge
record it.
big. Okay. Cool. All right. Really good.